I'm here today to tell you that the social media revolution is over. Major news outlets are already on Snapchat, and the hashtag is as mainstream as a Starbucks coffee. If you're like one of the more than 90% of American companies already using social media for marketing, you know how invaluable an asset it can be. I want to help you make that asset become even more valuable, but it really begins by understanding this one key concept. Social media replaces nothing, yet complements everything. But the old rules of business etiquette still apply, and I would argue are more important than ever. At the end of the day, people still buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. In social media, companies are sort of like DJs spinning tweets and posting photos, and people are scanning stations for something to listen to. So give them what they want. Content. Content gives companies the ability to engage in social media. It helps you become found. It helps you become a trusted entity. And ultimately, it helps businesses become liked and build community inside social media. 90% of information that is transmitted to our brains is visual. And not only that we process this information 60,000 times faster than text. So if you want to catch someone's attention in social media, use a visual. And I'm not just talking about those purely visual social networks like Snapchat and Instagram and Pinterest. If you look at LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, visuals dominate the timelines. What images will best represent your company? You need to craft a visual voice. But don't stop there. In social media, you can do as much broadcasting, as much self-promoting, as much publishing as you want from your own social channels. But unless other people are sharing your content to their communities and friends and networks, your social media presence really isn't leveraging word-of-mouth marketing, is it? In social media, you should be celebrating your fans, your employees, your customers, your partners. And in doing so, the benefits to your company will go far beyond social media. There's one more powerful way to get heard through the noise. It's called paid social. You can complain as much as you want about having to pay to play in social media. Or smart businesses and marketers understand that never before in the history of advertising do you have the opportunity to micro-target and ensure that your message gets seen by the exact demographic that you want to see it. The problem you will find though with social media is that there are more tweets than human beings. So much content to curate and create and publish that very, very soon you realize that social media indeed is a truly time-consuming effort. For those that are still skeptical, you might be asking, well, what exactly is the ROI of social media? I want to ask you, what's the ROI of everything you do in your company? What's the ROI of all those investments you've made in newspaper ads or in magazine ads? At the end of the day, you'll realize that marketing and advertising is being all about where your customer is. Social media, though, is a very different communication channel for one big reason, in that it is always changing. Think about it. The social networks that we use, the functionality that each of these social networks provides us, and the way in which we use them is always in flux. In fact, I like to say social media is sort of like one big experiment. That's why early on in my days as a social media strategy consultant, I was looking for frameworks for managing experiments that I could apply to social media marketing. It's then that I remembered, in my early days of working, I studied something called the Deming Circle. The Deming Circle is also known as the PDCA circle. P stands for plan, D for do, C for check, and A for action, or act upon, or optimize. And it's a never-ending circle. You always need to be optimizing. When we apply this to social media, it's very interesting because those companies that are asking about the ROI of social are those that never had a plan to begin with, but they're really good at the D or the doing, because that's all they're doing. And they're never checking. And therefore, they don't know how to optimize. I want to make sure that you do not become one of those companies. You see, Social media is now a major channel of communication. Being successful in social media does require a new mindset, but it's something that everyone in this room can acquire. But you need to remember, new tools, old rules. With this new social media mindset of yours, I now challenge you to consider everywhere in your company, almost every department in your company, where you can apply this social media to help your business. In other words, integrate social everywhere. So get busy. You all have a lot to do to maximize your social.